Hi, my name is Matt. Welcome to Unbearable 73. So we're finally up to episode 10. Episode 10 of The Orville, season 3, the season, possibly the series finale. But we'll start with a little bit of follow-up to episode 9 to cover some more of the spoilers I tried to avoid, just in case you're watching this in real time with me. Okay. So here's an obvious hole, a plot hole that even with all the tamper-proofing built into the weapon, such that if anyone but Isaac and Burke access it, it will fire, it still requires a power source. The Kalon are very, very rational to the point where they would just send Kalon after Kalon at it to reverse engineer piece by piece, and if each individual Kalon, got turned off, so to speak, by a short-range pulse, they would get far enough to deduce eventually how to figure how to deactivate the thing. Okay. That also doesn't leave out the Kalons using some sort of remote long-range probe on it. There's just a lot of sometimes the thinking on these shows. When you introduce something like this with special security, you kind of gotta think it through more if you're gonna make it an issue. Okay, so. And the point about the power source was, unless there's some sort of vast external power source like the ship's power core, that superpower core, you're not gonna. The Kalon method that I suggest would have worked to sort of solve it. Not to say they should have done that or whatever. I'm just throwing it out there that you think about these things, when they bring it up as a plot point that there was security about this thing. Now, probably my favorite part of any episode this season in terms of constructed intensity is when the Orville with Admiral Halsey made that penetration to Kalon territory, using the weapon again and again until the Kalon are willing to listen. Of this whole episode, I've watched that scene plus the end sequence several times just because it's really kind of neat, And you have to feel for the Kalon, created as a sapient enslaved species whose creators literally turned the torture of them into a feature and a form of entertainment. It's not surprising that they had a very negative view of biological species. Now, when Mercer left to get help, that would have been a perfect point to make this a two-parter. Okay? It's kind of a shame that in 10 episodes produced, there's in fact closer to 15 episodes worth of material, but I'll talk about that in a season retrospective essay that I'll record after this. The theft was predictable, and we all saw where this was going, that somehow that weapon was getting to the hands of someone who shouldn't have it, and when Admiral Perry did what he did, in terms of protesting, not using it and all that, it was pretty obvious he was going to be the guy. Now, Admiral Perry's fate was predictable, but personally, I interpret him being nonchalant about just leaving like that, as he expected the Krill to kill him, and he accepted it as the price of his task. I think he was being stoic, not stupid. It's almost we will miss Ted Danson on this show, but the thing is, this show this episode, for example, as proof, has shown it's willing to hit you with the punches. It's not going to pull them, and when it's time to kill a character, they're going to do it. I have an interesting thought about that for the season-long retrospective, which won't be that long. It's just some thoughts, having put it all together and thinking about the future of the Orville. Now, here's a little bit of it was almost contrived. There was that there was this Ron Mocklin who had to be the guy with special knowledge and the secret bases. Everyone, including boards too, they would take the device to. I mean, it was really pushing it that. Now, this might have been a nice time to maybe redeem Havina a bit, for example, just as an idea, and have her provide a vital bit of intelligence on the location of the weapon. Maybe someone who was called to work on it as part of the underground. Now, something that really annoyed me in the episode. What's the point of having a shuttle fly using stealth to get in? You'd have it in the middle of the wing of fighters. You're asking for accidental fire to hit it. You could argue the showrunners were looking to save on special effects and film work, having a shuttle with the fighters, but I think more this is a case of writing-induced stupidity. I don't want to sound nitpicky, but the phenomenon of too much cutting around from scene to scene kind of popped up once or twice in this episode. In other words, they just, instead of cutting so much, make them a little longer, the scenes, the scenes you're cutting from. Or just do what 24 used to do and show a split screen or a quad screen to show everything occurring simultaneously. I'm surprised more shows don't use that. It was a very nice way of keeping you in the action. Yeah. I know a lot of people didn't like Burke, but by the end of the season, with her evolution as a character, I think she had a full character arc that was worth watching, and she left at the right time. She died like a boss, and heroic sacrifice worth watching again, as I mentioned. The main flaw of this episode is basically, like with many other things, it seemed like it happened way too fast. Like, he just jumped cut from, like, this sort of conflict with the K-line and the breakdown of the Mocklin Alliance. That should have been something that unrolled over the course of a whole season of the, not just 2 episodes of, like, here we are, the Mocklin Alliance ended, and, 1 episode later, we solved the K-line War. I mean, so those are my final thoughts on episode 9. So now we're going to talk about episode 10. And to be honest, now I'm not going to go full spoiler. But with this type of episode, it's very predictable and not in a bad sense. But it wasn't like they were going to surprise you much. There was only one mild surprise, but you knew it was going to be that way. So I'm not, like I said, I'm not going to go full spoilers, but the point I'm making is I won't have to do a spoiler section to talk about this episode on the retrospective. The retrospective is just going to be my thoughts on the whole season and where they go from here. So, there are basically 4 ways to end a season in a show with the Orville's characteristics. 1, you can have an ass-kicking episode that's complete unto itself and ties up most, if not all, the plot threads of the season. Excuse me. I just woke up and I'm tired. You can have a cliffhanger. It's option 2. You can have a murky, more questions raised and answer conclusion, kind of like shows like Fringe or X-Files or Lost used to do. I mean, two bad and 1 good example, which was Fringe, by the way. It's a good one. Or you can do an epilogue episode. The Orville went with an epilogue episode. Now, I'm reasonably sure that Seth did that because he wanted an episode that could wrap up the series, meaning as well as the season, if he doesn't get funding for a 4th season or decides not to do it. Okay, so that's why I have a feeling that's why I went with an epilogue episode, to close things down if it had to end here. So we open with Boyce and Clyde and providing a final conclusion to the subplot of their marriage. I think it would have been better and more symbolic if they had done it on the planet where Havina established a colony. I don't remember the name of it. I think it starts with an L. That being said, you have to give credit where credit is due. Peter Macon, who plays Boyce, and Chad Coleman, who plays Clyde, have to be in some damn good shape to do the scenes they did in the opening. Another plot, which was arguably one of the co-main plots in this of the 2 in this episode, was Isaac proposing to Finn, the progress of their relationship and its ramifications for the Orville universe. And, of course, the other main co-plot is a return to Sargas 4, which was a planet from the first season whose people had basically turned every decision over to social media votes. Lysella, the person who would help them save Lamar, had stolen a communicator and had been broadcasting into space, hoping to connect to the Orville because she needed help. Long story short, 2 more of her friends had been executed due to the social media votes, and she was desperate to escape what would amount to a horrible planet if freaking Facebook could execute you. After some debate, Mercer granted a political asylum, as Shori knew about the Union aliens and such. Now, as you can guess, there was not a lot of tension in this episode. It was more character-driven than plot-driven. So I'll be going full spoiler for this one, as I mentioned before, because knowing what happens, you won't or shouldn't affect whether you like or dislike the episode. The episode is almost 99% predictable. The resolution of Lysella's storyline was not so much in doubt as what the journey was to get to our resolution. We did learn that the backstory on why the Union adopted its rule about non-interference is part of Lysella's subplot. It's as dark as you might suspect. I would like to see Lysella stick around as a supporting character for maybe half the next season, being mentored by Grayson before she finds a place for herself in the Union. That's a good way that's a good thing. Instead of introducing new random sub-characters, they can have a couple of vignettes here where Grayson's teaching her about, say, some tech or whatever, or showing her different options for education, which would give you more insight into how the Union functions, and help Grayson develop as a character, as a teacher, which is something we've seen our character do repeatedly. Isaac and Finn's wedding storyline also turned out well. I particularly enjoyed their wedding vows, and the union dress uniforms were pretty spiffy. It was nice to see Katan return as a character, so the actress can guest star during this wedding event. There were a lot of nice bits of humor in this episode, mostly driven by character moments, but the funniest callback joke I've seen in years. Did you ever wonder where that sandwich went to? That's all I'll say. And lastly, they did my boy Borges wrong. That's all I can say on that one, So final thoughts. There were a lot of neat moments in this episode and very few bad ones. That being said, there's nothing in this episode that's particularly memorable other than the sandwich callback. It was, however, very enjoyable, so I'll give it a 7 out of 10. Comment down below if you have any questions for me or about this video. Please share your thoughts. Sorry for my hoarse voice. My allergies are just killing me lately. Share this video if you enjoyed it. Like if you like, dislike if you dislike. Subscribe if you want to hear more from me. My name is Matt. This has been Unbearable 73. Have a nice day, and I am out of here.